Hello everybody, this is Tip Top Gaming here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at some of the top cards on r/custom magic. So it's basically a bunch of really awesome custom magic cards. To clarify, these cards are not real. They are meant to be fun, just like people creating them for fun. If you like custom magic cards, there's a whole playlist of these on my channel, and I'm doing a series where I turn every movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe into like a little set. So if you want to see that, check it out. There'll be a link in the description. Why don't we jump right into this? So our first card I want to go over is Ulyss, Poet of Depths, and that's by user aryatho, and it's a 5-cost blue and black legendary creature shaman 3/3. And it says, whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token, which is very powerful, similar to another card we have in standard. And then it says, sacrifice X tentacles. You may put a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent card with converted mana cost X from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. So the idea here is that you're able to, so say you draw a card every turn, so you're going to create at least one blue tentacle a turn, which is already really powerful. But now, say you have 5 tentacles, you can put a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent from your hand onto the battlefield with converted mana cost however many tentacles you have. So, 5 tentacles, CMC 5. But it also works from your graveyard. Now, theoretically, this could be an infinite loop. For instance, if you have, and this is kind of a long shot, if you have something that gives all creatures the tentacle type, you could sacrifice a 1 CMC creature, which is now considered a tentacle, and now it's also, and it would have to be a Kraken, so it'd have to be like a 1 CMC Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, Serpent. I don't know why I'm overanalyzing this. I think this card is really fun, and even there, I was trying to show you how it could infinite loop, but it's kind of hard to find anything useful to do with it, so I think this card is really fun. It's legendary, so it can be a commander, and overall, I just really enjoy this card. Here we have Time by TCHUKKELZ. I'm not even going to try. And it's a 3-cost creature, elemental bird 2/3, and this is a silver bordered card. Now, in my last video, I took the top 10. And by the way, these aren't in exact order of top 10. But this time I filtered them a bit more because there were a lot of joke ones that weren't meant to be actual magic cards, and people really don't need those explained. This is the only silver bordered one, and I thought it was actually very funny, and so I thought I'd include it. It says, as long as you're having fun, time has flying. And it says, be honest. So the idea here is, oh, you're having fun? Time flies when you're having fun, and so the bird named Time flies when you're having fun, and that's kind of funny. And then the flavor text is, just one more game, Mom! And then it's Timmy, which that also adds to it. So I really enjoy this. It's a fun card, right? And yeah. Then we have Juno the Catalyst, which is a 5-cost legendary planeswalker Juno, and this is by Cheibrodos. It has 4 loyalty, and then you can pay 0 to proliferate, which proliferating means you put a counter on any number of permanents. So if a land has counters, if a creature has counters, you may put one more of each type that is there. So technically that is a +1, but he also gets to boost up all other planeswalkers and all other creatures. So he basically has a +1 every turn. Then he has a -3, which allows you to proliferate twice, which this is actually a -1 because you're proliferating twice, and then you're gaining 2 of those back from the proliferates, although you do need to have the 3 there to actually activate the ability. And if it's exactly 3, he'll die, so it's not exactly a -1. And then his -8 is just proliferate 5 times. So this is an interesting card. It's not super complicated, but it's just interesting what you can do with just one word. That's all this card is one word. And the proliferate mechanic mixed with planeswalkers is very powerful. That's why we saw it happen in War of the Spark. And so this card kind of plays with that, with a planeswalker that cares all about proliferating by boosting itself up. So I really enjoy this card. Now here we have an interesting one. It's Promising Student / Experienced Teacher by Karchak. And this is a 2-cost 1/2 creature human warrior. And it says, when it deals combat damage to an opponent, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then it says, retire 3. At the beginning of your end step, if this card has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may transform it. Now, here is what I want to talk about. In terms of game rules, I'm not a game rule expert. When you transform it, does it lose those counters? Because a lot of times it says exile it and return it to the battlefield transformed. If it doesn't lose those counters, this could be an interesting card, which I don't think it does lose those counters. But the idea here is that you keep like fighting, and you're a promising student, and eventually you've done all your combat, you've hit an opponent a couple times, and now you can mentor a student and like put counters on them, which therefore will allow them to become a mentor sooner, because the mentor adds counters to the promising student and allows them to then transform faster. So the mentor actually allows the promising student to get better and then turn into a teacher because they have the skills, and it's just so flavorful. It's really great. Now, talking about power, would I, because if it has 3+1/+1 counters on it, it's a 4/5. Would I trade that for a, it depends on if it gets reduced to a 2/2, which I don't think it does. If it doesn't get reduced to a 2/2, which one's still more useful? Being able to keep improving the counters on it is useful, but also being able to put the counters on another creature is also useful, so it's kind of interesting to see how this card works. It's really fun. Next, we have Wise Denial by Alfonso Dragonlord. I love this card. It's very simple. It's X and a blue for an instant, and it says counter target spell unless its controller pays X. Very typical blue effect. And then it says Adamant. If at least 3 blue mana was spent to cast a spell, counter that spell instead. Now, this is a strictly almost better cancel, except for the fact that if you want it to actually act as cancel, you need 3 blue mana. So, I guess not strictly better. But what's cool about it is if you have 2 mana, it allows you to make it so they have to pay 1 mana to cast the spell. Now, I think it might have been better if it said pays twice X, but I'm not going to really nitpick this card. The only thing I have to say about this is that there are only 2 modes you're ever going to play. You're never going to pay for more than 2 blue. So this card is really tricky to design with Adamant being 3. If you could put like 4, this card would be a lot more interesting. You could pay X is 1, X is 2, or X is 3, and those would all be very different. Now, I guess if you don't have blue mana, you could pay for more than X is 2. But in a deck that runs this, you're probably only running blue mana, in which case you're only paying 2 or 3 for this. You're not paying anything more. Although, again, I guess if you're playing like Azorius Control, you could pay 1 blue and 3 white. So it doesn't lose all purpose there. I really like the way Adamant is used here. I like Adamant on X spells, and in a video coming up soon, where I talk about Thor the Dark World, I use a very similar mechanic, which is kind of cool. Then we have Sen, Fist of the Five Suns by Psychovore, which is a 3-cost legendary creature, legendary artifact creature mirror. It's a 1/3. Now, one thing I want to mention, a lot of the cards that get popular are legendary ones, because people think about them as commanders, and commanders generally have the most impact on the game, because, you know, they affect your entire deck. It's not just one card in a deck. But anyway, it says other mirrors that you control get +1/+1, so instantly this is a mirror commander. And it says tap an untapped mirror you control, add 1 mana of any color. Similar to Urza High Artificer, except this is any color, but again, you can only tap mirrors. And then you can pay 5 and search your library and or graveyard for a mirror creature card, reveal it, put it on the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. So this allows you, this is pretty much the ultimate mirror commander. You're going to play 5 colors because, well, it has all 5 colors in it. And even if you don't want to activate that last ability, which you probably do, it allows you to play any color deck you want. And so that's pretty epic. So yeah, I just really like the card. It's really fun. Next, we have a really simple one. It's Snow-Covered Waste, and this is by Salmiakki Alfianato. I think that this is definitely needed. There are snowlands for every other type of land, and I think that a snow-covered waste is also very important. This one doesn't have as much to talk about, but I still really enjoy this. Next, we have Dakark, the Bloodfin, again, another commander. It's a 3-cost blue and black, 3/3 legendary creature Merfolk Shaman. It says, whenever another creature dies, untap all Merfolk you control. They gain menace until end of turn. So Merfolk generally are like blue, maybe green in there, but blue-black isn't super common. However, this has a very interesting like other part. It says, tap 5 untap Merfolk you control, draw a card. And because this thing can happen at sorcery speed, and you can do it over and over again, say you're creating a bunch of 1/1 Merfolk, or even 0/1 Merfolks, at the end of the opponent, so say you have 4 players, the person sitting to your left, they're going to take their turn, and right before your turn starts, you can tap all your Merfolk to just draw some cards, and that's very powerful, especially for 3 mana, and let's say your Merfolk, let's say you have 5 or 6 Merfolk, and they're about to kill one. Well, you tap all your Merfolk, tap 5 of them, to draw a card, then they kill it, all your Merfolk untap, and then you can do that again to draw another card. So this allows you to, if you have 5 or more Merfolk, kind of just replace creatures that die, and that's super powerful, kind of conditional, so that's why I think this card is like really well balanced. Next we have one that's really fun, another one by Alfonso Dragonlord. It's a Reckless Pyromancer. It's a red, 3/3 with first strike, which is kind of lame on its own, but it is a adventure, and it has Ritual Flame, which says pay 2, add 3, and it deals 3 damage to you. Obviously, this is 1 more costed than a normal ritual of, or dark ritual, but that's also because it's part of an adventure. Now, the fact that it deals 3 damage to you makes it very red. I don't think this would ever see play in real, like, Magic, and I think it breaks the color pie a little bit too much. I mean, I guess you could add mana for damage, but it's a little bit of a stretch, and I don't know, I just really enjoy adventure cards. They're kind of fun to build around them. Generally, I prefer adventure cards that the actual adventure part somehow interacts with the main part, like Questing Beast, but overall, this is pretty good. Okay, and then for our last one, we have Xenagos Ascendant, which is by Andylightkai, and this is a very interesting flip card. So it starts on the left, and it is a 5-cost legendary planeswalker Xenagos, and it can be your commander. And it says, put a number of loyalty counters on Xenagos equal to your devotion to red and green. So that could be a 0. Well, that's on its own just +2, and that's all it does. It just adds loyalty. But chances are you probably have more red and green permanents. If you're playing green, maybe you have a bunch of little mana dorks on the field, so you could give him like +7. Then 0, if your devotion to red and green is 7 or greater, transform him, which again is kind of crazy. I mean, the 7 or greater is kind of similar to the legendary enchantment thing with normal gods, and we'll get into that here in a second. And then you can use a -2, and it says reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature with converted mana cost less than your devotion to red and green, you may put it onto the battlefield. And then it says it could be your commander. So I like this card. The only issue is you can create all of this loyalty, but you really can't do too much with it. Now, that is kind of not true, but like you can do a +7, and then you can do a -2. Yippee-ki-yay. I think a -X that said with converted mana cost less than X could be better. It could be a little more balanced. You could have maybe brought his cost down a little bit, but it's fine. It also doesn't, I mean, I guess it wouldn't have indestructible yet, but it's kind of interesting that, you have 8 devotion to green and red. You can reveal the top card of your library and just put it on the battlefield if it's a creature. It's a little narrow, but what you can do is then you can transform him into Xenagos, God of Debauchery, and it's a legendary enchantment creature god, so very similar to a normal a god. It's a 6/5, and it says, as long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Xenagos isn't a creature, so typical text. So it does need to be 7 or greater to transform him into it. However, I believe you lose 2 devotion because he no longer has those symbols in his mana cost, so that's kind of interesting. And then it says, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, put a loyalty counter on Xenagos, so you're putting loyalty counters on a creature. And then it says, remove 4 loyalty counters from Xenagos, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains on the battlefield. So he's kind of another planeswalker, but he doesn't have the planeswalker type. Now let me explain how this is supposed to work. You deal combat damage to an opponent, put a loyalty counter on him. Cool. He keeps his loyalty counters from when he's a planeswalker. So you could do a +8, and he could have 13 +1/+1 counters, or not +1/+1 counters, 13 loyalty counters. And then, because he doesn't tap to do his final ability to remove 4 counters, you can just burn all of those loyalty counters, and they're no longer directly related to his health. On top of that, it's a better -2. It's just whatever that card is, you may play it. And it's not just creatures, so overall, that card is really insane. It flips, and it's basically a game winner. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been really fun looking at these custom Magic cards. If you guys have any suggestions for cards I should look at, leave them in the description, in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.